This movie scared the shit out of me still.
Yeah. No,
And I'm an adult now.
it's so... The two we've done before this are slashers. This is more psychological horror, even though it's found footage. I was surprised at how much it was psychological horror. And then listening to the directors who also wrote and edited it, they were talking about how inspired they were by The Shining. It's like, oh, yeah, definitely. That's exactly what they're getting at. That totally makes sense. Mm. So I think it's good that this is the group for that, is what I was trying to say.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We've all seen The Shining.
Got the shine.
Yeah. We did that episode.
Yeah.
I really like how Heather has her like reporter voice for when she's doing the documentary segments.
Yeah.
How she like, I could definitely relate to like switching to a broadcast voice.
I loved that the intro cards were shaky because I know it was supposed to be like found footage, but like I don't think there's a reason why those intro cards should be shaking. I think those should have been digitally added. They should probably stay.
I think it's just an old transfer. I think on HBO Max where I watched it at least. But I don't know. Where'd you guys watch it?
HBO Max. Right, it's on there.
Yeah, exactly.
I watched it on HBO Max. Did anybody check out the Blair Witch 2? The Witchening?
I've actually seen that.
We'll talk.
Have you?
Yeah.
Book of Darkness or something.
We should actually like start the podcast. So, as you guys know, I don't know how to start the podcast. So either we'll just in media res just begin talking about it, unlike any episode we've done before. Or we'll do something like Welcome to Late to the Movies. My name's Ben Holt, and this is a podcast where my friends and I get to fill in our movie blind spots. Every week, we'll pick a movie that I or a guest hadn't seen before and really should have by now. This week, continuing Halloween in June, a whole month of low-budget horror movies. We've got The Blair Witch Project. My guest this week, left to right across your podcast dial, we've got Greg.
Hey.
Ray.
Hi.
Robbie.
Ooh.
Yeah. Spooky.
The Blair Witch.
This movie is incredible. I don't think I had actually sat through the whole thing. Like leading up to this, I was like, I think I've seen it, but I know I hadn't just sat down and watched it all in parts. And then watching it this time, I realized, no, I actually haven't seen a lot of this movie before, even though it's like, 78 minutes until credits, pretty much.
Yeah, it's not long. This is a 99 movie, by the way.
No way.
Yeah.
Is it?
So Wikipedia said.
Okay, well, they're probably right.
But it did. 94 is when they go into the woods.
Okay, yeah, that's why it's just confusing. A 99 horror movie, right? Because I was watching a thing that said it was the same year as Phantom Menace, which is funny to think about.
It took a while to find the footage.
Yeah,
99 makes sense because I remember. Like
that
Googling,
totally...
we're not Googling this, but like
going to BlairWitchProject.com.
I remember looking this up online,
asking Jeeves what was
shitty,
up.
Like Windows 95 computer. Or whatever
I can tell we're pretty excited to talk about the movie. So let's get through the obligatory bullshit first. Let's do that stuff first. Any fun stuff you guys have seen recently? Ray, you haven't been on for a little while, so if you want to kick us off.
I've been watching Taskmaster per your recommendation.
Fucking love Taskmaster.
It actually made the list, and I watched it, some of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Which series did you start with?
I watched the one with Noel Fielding because Great British Bake Off.
That's usually where I would recommend, and I think anyone recommends Americans to start because you're not going to know anyone else.
Yeah.
And eventually it doesn't matter, but it's nice to break in with at least one anchor of a person.
It was nice, yeah. And then Mel, whatever her last name is.
There.
Yeah, because she was on British Bake Off too.
Goodrich or Godric.
Yeah. And then now I'm starting with series 1 and.
It starts kind of like whatever, but once it gets to like the Noel Fielding season, I think everything after that is easily recommendable. It's all good, but I just think it gets better as it goes. The current series that's on 13 has been really good.
It's good fun.
I've watched some of it too. I've had a good time with it.
Yeah, it's really fun. Easy to drop in, drop out, pick and choose.
I'll watch like one task every now and then if I'm doing something else. The one looks particularly good. I'm like, oh, this is good.
You really, it's an easily categorizable way to watch it chronologically. But when I started watching it, I just went on Reddit and saw like, oh, what do people think the best seasons are? And I just started with those. And that's a way to do it too. How about you, Robbie?
I actually haven't watched much this week. I've been playing some Diablo Immortal, but I watched The Boys and Kenobi.
Oh, we haven't started The Boys yet.
The Boys is so goddamn good.
I might wait to binge it.
I think it might end up being the best show that's ever been created.
Did they do like drop like a couple episodes to start and now it's one a week or?
Yes. So there's 4 out right now.
4. That's what they did last season. I think was 3 and then 1 a week.
Yep. And it will end in July. I know. I hate it too, but it's so goddamn good. I can't like, and I'm on the Reddit now reading people's like theories as they come out. And it's fun.
That's the nice thing about not binging it is like
you can
you can immerse yourself in it and stuff.
Participate with the conversations.
Yeah, it's a much better strategy than some, I don't know, other shows on other streaming services that throw everything on at once. And you have one weekend where everyone's like, this is cool. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, what was that? Was that this year? Anyway. So yeah, I watched some stuff this week. I actually have been like on a big movie kick. RRR, which is on Netflix right now. It's the version that's dubbed into Hindi, but a good chunk of it's in English anyway. It's I mentioned on the last episode, I don't think I'd watched it yet though. RRR stands for, I think, Rise, Roar, Revolt. It's a Tollywood movie, which is all in the Telugu language. It's what?
Philippines?
India.
Oh.
So I think it's southern India. So there's like distinct Bollywood that's separate from Tollywood.
Okay, that's why I was confused.
And this is a new movie from S.S. Rajamouli, who is like the biggest director, one of the biggest directors there, and it was perhaps the most expensive Indian film ever made at the equivalent of like $72 million US. And it's just amazing. It's the short log of it is it's a historical epic as if it was directed by Michael Bay pretty much, but like back when he still had like really fresh ideas, and it's just very unapologetically doing just cool stuff. That makes it sound stuffy. It's about it's a fictional story of 2 revolutionaries who were 2 people that really existed, but I think in real life didn't even know each other, that in this movie like become best friends, even though they're at sort of cross purposes, and like spark a revolution against the British Empire. It sounds stuffy, but it's like the absolute coolest action movie that I've seen this year. It has such really good and fresh ideas and is just so fun. And that's on Netflix. Highly recommend. It's 3 hours long, but it's fairly, I wouldn't say episodic, but you can break it up. Some of the set pieces are just like bug nuts insane in a really fun way. I mentioned in the last episode the Irma Vep TV show that just started on HBO Max, starring Alicia Vikander. I have written here, I would let her kill me.
Okay.
And the show, when I mentioned it last time, it hadn't come out yet. It has started now. As we're recording this, there's only 1 episode out. It fucking was awesome. It's so good. Highly recommend. It's just as acidic as the 96 movie from Messias, but he's still just as mad about the state of movies. And just in the first episode alone, a lot of jokes about Marvel. So, pretty good stuff. Alicia Vikander's in it. She's probably my favorite actress.
At this point, I'd let anybody kill me.
It's a low bar. It's a low bar.
I just want my first time to be special.
So, and then I only have one more. The new Jurassic Park movie came out. Rolling Stone described it as, "Oh God, please make it stop." Richard Roper from the Chicago Sun-Times or Tribune described it as the equivalent of audiences are as helpless as a boat passing under the bridge that the Dave Matthews Band unloaded a bunch of feces off of. So instead of watching that, I watched the first Jurassic Park, which is still real good. Love that movie.
Man, that one holds up so good.
We are going to talk about it next month. I don't know if we are, but the podcast is going to talk about it next month.
That is my favorite movie of all time. Jurassic Park is number 1.
You do somehow know someone that hasn't seen it, right? Was it your cousin?
Yep. Kyle.
Kyle hasn't
seen it.
I must have watched it at like 7 or 8, and it was, I mean, I wouldn't still call it one of my favorite movies, but when I watched it at the time, like I was obsessed with dinosaurs for like my entire life after that.
Yeah. I love Jurassic Park, but that is another movie that scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Loved it, but it scared the shit out of me.
So, like I said, I am counting myself as not having seen this movie before. You've seen it a couple times.
I've seen it a couple times.
You?
Mm-hmm.
And this was newish for you?
Yeah. It was so viral when it came out. I read the plot summary and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I was aware of what happened. And then as I was watching it, I remember at like one point somebody had it on, Cassie had it on like a computer monitor, and we were just blazed out of our minds. And I was like sitting on the bed. So I saw like clips of it. But
I think that's mostly how I had seen it too, is like it's at a sleepover party or something. Someone just throws it on, but you're not, it's background, whatever.
Yeah.
And both being a kid and not really paying attention, you drop out for the conversations that happen during the daytime, which watching it this time was like, oh, that stuff's really good.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool stuff that they're doing. And we're going to get into a bit of the production about it. So that being said, do you want to do plot summary or do you want me to? I think this one can be pretty short, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to, I'll do it, but it's going to be real quick.
Go for it. We'll put a minute on the clocks, and we'll need 15 seconds. 20?
Yeah. Group of kids get stuck in the woods, don't know how to use a map, get murdered by a witch.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some other stuff that happens, but it is on purpose very simple and straightforward.
They go to explore historical sites. They end up knocking over a artifact. They're lost in the woods. It's dark out. They're scared. They go missing one by one, and then the other two.
Yeah,
and then that's it.
Yeah, it's this movie.
What's the budget on this thing? 50,000? What it is?
$5.
What?
What's the budget on? Is it 50?
It's weird. It's like 35 to 65,000, depending on who you ask. It makes. What, 150 mil domestic, something like that. It's 300 mil worldwide, I want to say.
It's a good return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not like, so it's written, directed, edited by Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sánchez. It's not like they go on to get a ton of opportunities. One of them makes one of the VHS shorts, and they produce and write some other stuff, but they don't return, even though there's a couple sequels. Depending on the one, I know there's Blair Witch 2, Book of That Witch, or whatever it's called.
Book of Secrets or Book of Darkness, or Book of something.
President's Book of Secrets.
I think that's the national treasure.
It's Book of something. Yeah, that's a national treasure.
We all did research. And then there's one that's just called Blair Witch, but I think that's newer. That's newer, and that's the one where it's people who are like trying to recreate, right?
No, I think that's the second, because I read the second one. The is people trying to recreate. Is like they were obsessed with the movie or something like that.
Okay, cool.
The more recent,
one's the one where they actually see the witch and it's like creeping around in the back, right?
I think so. The more recent one is
interesting
one
sequence.
of these
I've seen
three
it on
people's
YouTube.
siblings is going to look for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you see it with me?
No.
Oh.
I don't know why they'd go to look for them. They're very clearly dead.
So this will be an interesting way in. I think it's the most recent one, Blair Witch, that makes explicit some of the stuff that is more ambiguous in this movie. It's like really explicit that they're lost in some kind of time loop.
Yes.
Interesting.
Whereas they just don't trust each other, that they didn't go in a circle in this movie.
Yes.
Which I appreciate. And and it's like explicit that they don't know what time it is and that the time isn't matching up, and that they're only going in a circle even if they walk in one direction. They make it all a lot more explicit in the newer one, but in this one,
is better.
They make it very obvious in the new one, and it's like modern, so they've got like a drone that they try to use to see like where they are. That doesn't work, and like their cell phones don't work.
Yeah.
They kind of had to do that though, because it doesn't work in modern times.
Yeah.
You know, like 'cause you'd ask all of those questions as a viewer. You'd be like, well, wouldn't you pull out your smartphone and just, plot directions to your car?
Oh, no service.
No service.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be the way around.
Even the offline maps these days, like you can just put a pin, and even if you're offline, it has a good idea of like.
Yeah. But what if Mike takes it and throws it in the river because he doesn't think it's you're doing it right?
Well, and so that's the thing, though. I don't even think he did that because he didn't think he was doing it right. I think that was also part of the Blair Witch. Like he like cackled maniacally after he admitted it. Like that's somebody that like is also being. I don't know. Like.
Yeah. Well, they got Woods crazy. Or it's supernatural, and it doesn't actually like, the last couple shots maybe get you there. But anyway, point being, this movie, a lot of that is more ambiguous, even as they start hearing babies crying in the woods and people laughing and wailing and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And even after,
could you guys actually hear any of that? I could only read it on my subtitles. I had my TV up really loud, and I could hear almost none of it.
And like, that it's not real, but it's so creepy.
I could hear noises, but I couldn't tell what they were.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which made it all the more creepy when something breaks through and it actually does sound like a guy yelling, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, I could hear. Who was the friend who went missing? Josh. Yeah. When Josh is yelling,
I could hear that.
You could hear that easy.
Yeah.
But all the other things, when they were like, you hear that? And they're like filming in the dark. And they're like, you heard it, right? You heard it. And you're listening. I could hear him, but only barely. I couldn't make out what it was, but I knew it was something. And they're like, it's all around us.
So that scene specifically where it was like, the subtitle said footsteps running around. I didn't hear anything like that.
Could you hear like the branches breaking and stuff?
I could hear
a
branches.
little bit.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So this is a movie that obviously comes out in theaters, and I imagine in a big theater with like a surround sound theater system is probably at least 10-15% creepier.
That's what I was thinking when I was watching it, was like, because our audio just wasn't that good, and I'm like, in a theater this would be like way worse. And then because it's a lot of that's happening with literally nothing on screen, so then you're just hearing like from around you all the branches or like a baby crying. It's probably like, fuck this.
I had a feeling that it was something like that because they wouldn't have taken the time to subtitle what the noises were if you weren't supposed to hear.
Yeah, and I did turn it up at some point. You can't hear it, but it's down low in the track.
It was harder for us too because I had to keep turning the volume up and down because like at night everything's kind of quiet. But then
screaming, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, then the day comes and they're fucking just yelling and swearing and screaming at each other, and you gotta like lower the volume a little
bit. This movie is awesome. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I think it had a lot more going on as a movie than I expected it to. I liked the technical aspects of switching between the digital video camcorder and the 16 millimeter film. And when it's in black and white, it's on 16 millimeter, all the other like behind the scenes stuff on digital. I think it was really cool how they were doing that.
I like already just like the production and the release behind this film is like really awesome. Like there's plenty to talk about on that alone, but the film itself is good.
Yeah, that's the thing I wasn't expecting, is that it actually does hang together.
Yeah.
And I think the three characters, I think Mike gets kind of cartoony when he gets witch touched and goes off and he starts like rocking back and forth and laughing and stuff. Yeah. But I think the other two people are consistently like really good performances the whole time.
I know a lot of people criticize Heathers. They don't like her, I think. Like at the time people didn't.
I feel like people like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I absolutely know people who would do exactly that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think you're supposed to really like her,
No. And it's not, it's just a person that, and I don't think Mike's bad the whole time. And I don't think he's bad at that point either, but I think that's the point where you're kind of like, did people really think this was real? Because this guy's rocking back and forth and cackling.
Yeah.
Which it's just like a little bit more heightened than the other stuff is pitched at. But when he's just turns to her and he's like, just admit that we're lost. It would be so much better if you just admit you don't know where we are. And she's just like, I know exactly where we are.
Yeah.
He's like, if you admit that we're lost, we can like make a plan. And it would just like, it doesn't help us, but it would just emotionally feel so much better if you please just admit that we're lost. And she's like, nope. And it's just like, oh yeah, no, I know people like that.
Yeah.
Man, so these are three actors that the directors, Myrick and Sánchez, put out a casting call that was like, don't show up for this if you're not down with being in the woods, if you don't enjoy being scared, if you don't want to like really get weird with it.
You got to improv a lot. And I think they were also at least someone needs to know how to operate a camera. Someone also needs to be a cameraman.
So they put him through a boot camp. Josh and Heather both have to do camera work, and Mike has to do the audio stuff. And they were actually doing that because the directors and the Haxon crew didn't actually get in contact with them while they were in the woods for 8 days. They maintained a distance.
They would give them like supply drops.
Yes.
And then the supply drops would be like, go here today.
Yep.
And it might give them like some certain things, like some beats to hit kind of thing.
Was it put in a bundle outside their tent?
So fucking shit up outside their tent. They didn't tell them they were going to do that. And so they wake up and start filming. And so it just makes it that much crazier that they do stay in character the whole time and are legitimately scared. Because like, fantastic. Yeah, they just, so like you were saying, they'd give them supply drops. They put like a little flag on a milk crate or whatever. And they would find that they actually did have a GPS system. Not that the characters show you that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would basically just be like, here's your motivation today. Here's where you're going. But they would give them each different motivations, and the other person wouldn't know that they're going to necessarily be at like cross purposes with that person's character today. and then in the night they would like play loops of babies crying in the woods and like run around breaking branches and shit.
It makes a lot of their dialogue make a lot more sense. Like when they're talking about like, it's just some crazies out there screwing. Well, you know, like I don't know, you kind of get the authenticity of like, they really did feel that way. And then I'm sure as they started to lose their minds, it got
they were out there for 8 days.
It would make sense too, because I think they're only given a little tidbit. So all they'd have to do is give you a little tidbit. Like today, you are sure that there is no Blair Witch. You know what I mean? So now your character has to be like, well, okay, what is it then? You know what I mean?
It's obvious. And I mean, it makes sense to be like, well, obviously there's people out here following us and fucking with us.
Yep. And like, that seems plausible because I know that's what's fucking happening.
Yeah.
Because there literally is, Kevin.
Yeah, well, true. Yeah, there literally is. And yeah, just like the little touches throughout of like the heightening of the suspense is so good, and the way they play it. And I guess grain of salt. All of this movie is a lot of like smoke and mirrors and hucksterism with the production and not the production, with the promotion and the marketing. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's all bullshit, but I like to believe that it's all improv, and I don't know if they told them that time that it was the time where they all run out of the tent where one of them walks up and just starts fucking shaking the tent. Yeah. They must have had a great time, the production crew that was just fucking with them. It's like, tonight, what do we want to do? I got a loop of some babies crying. I don't know. Just
all right, we're going to talk about why you have that later, but for now, play it.
Yeah.
So from what, like, I've looked up a bunch of stuff about this movie. I looked up a bunch of stuff when I was younger because I watched this when I was very young, right? So this came out in 99.
You're 8-ish.
So I was 8.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if I saw it. I didn't see it in theaters, but I saw it shortly after it came out.
Oh, wow.
So what was that? Maybe 2001-ish? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I remember like looking this stuff up and like, you know, because that's why we have a computer and stuff, and no one monitors you online because there's nothing bad on the internet.
Parents didn't know.
Yeah, no one knew. So I've looked up a lot about it, but I think in that scene in particular, they were supposedly going to show the witch at that point when the tent is shaking. And that's when they run out of the tent.
Yeah, and Heather goes, "What the fuck is that?" And it's like, I like rewound it because I was like, what is she looking at?
So she turns to the right. So she's looking, I think Mike's behind her or Josh with the black and white camera. So he's behind her. You see her. He's looking forward. She says, "What the fuck is that?" and turns to her right with the other camera looking like perpendicular. But Josh doesn't turn, so you don't see. And I think they said they had a plan for that, and they didn't get a good shot of it. So they were just like, well, fuck it. We don't have it.
I think it's better. I mean,
it's so much better.
It's so much better.
The way the guy described the Blair Witch, if they actually had tried to do that in 1999, like with all the fur everywhere, it would have not been.
Like levitating off the ground, just some furry lady.
Some weird furry otter lady. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think their plan was to not make her furry, though. I think they wanted to make her like elongated. And,
okay.
That is
like a Slender Man kind of thing.
That's what they do
creepy.
in the new one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She is kind of a Slenderman.
Yeah, I think that was more along the plan.
Of the Maryland Slenderman.
Yes.
Or Slender Woman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's just like a fleshy, like really spider-limbed kind of lady crawling around in the background.
It's creepy.
I was thinking like a street.
And actually, so the other Blair Witch movies, you can probably take a pass on. That sequence is worth a YouTube. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I don't know how it hangs with the rest of the movie. Some people think it's just goofy and dumb, but I thought it looked pretty cool.
But yeah, I like that you never ever see the Blair Witch in this because you really don't need to.
Yeah.
And they don't have a lot of options if they're running with around $50,000. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The imagination's free thing again.
Gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it was smart too, like because those actors are like no-name actors, right? They put out like a call for like anyone kind of thing.
Specifically, yeah, and it's not. It's not like these guys planned to make millions of dollars on this. They didn't think they would even get picked up. Instead, it goes to Sundance, gets sold, makes hundreds of millions of dollars, and starts a franchise. While it's at Sundance, the guys who made the movie convince IMDb to list the actors as missing, presumed dead. Which is just great. And we can get into the marketing a little bit now. They put out that famous missing poster. If you have any information, contact whatever, Maryland Police Department.
Maryland Police must have loved that.
Yeah, so they had a bunch of leaflets that they did.
Yeah, and then the most important part of this, and the way that this sort of gets at the 90s of it all, not just the prevalence of home video. And I'm sure like one of the highest rated show in America is probably like America's Funniest Home Videos at this point, right? And it's the same aesthetic. But also the internet. People are just getting used to the internet and maybe aren't used to the internet lying to them yet. And BlairWitchProject.com pops up and is like a true crime website would look today, where it's just different bits and pieces. It's some of the clips from the movie. It's others supporting, like, oh, here's the legend from this fake book. They made up the legend, of course. But it's all this other stuff. When the movie comes out on Sci-Fi, they make a companion, like, follow-up piece that is presented as straight investigative journalism, interviewing, like, the sheriff of the town who's like, yeah, we found the car. We never found any clues. They interview, like, Heather's college professor who approved the project, and now he's feeling guilty. She was one of my best students, and I really should have made sure that she knew what she was doing with going into the forest and that stuff. And this is 1999. As an 8-year-old, I'm certainly not equipped to discern between reality and not. And people between not, it must be true. I read it. And home video stuff not really being brought to bear with fiction yet, even though this it just is this flashpoint of these different factors that make this just a phenomenon. And then at the core of it, which is what I wasn't expecting, it actually does on its own stand up as a really good movie, I think.
Yeah, it's still like, I mean,
it has like a lot of pathos that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, like you can watch this without knowing anything about the production or the marketing, and it's still like it's a scary movie.
Yeah,
like it's a pretty solid horror movie. Like you'll leave this pretty scared.
Well, and I feel like the grift went on for a while. Like, at least for me, I don't think I realized it wasn't a real like found footage thing until I was like 18 years old. Like maybe a little bit before that, but I feel like for a while people were just like, yeah, no, it's real.
Yeah. There's
like a couple of years at least.
A lot of effort into making it seem like that. And then it's a part of there's an element to it too that like you want to believe it's real. Because it's so much more interesting if it is.
Yeah. Obviously.
And it's so much more scary. And like, I don't know, we want to be scared, right? There's horror movies that it's not like people are like, oh no, we don't like those. Please stop making them. It's like, yeah, no, hurt me more.
Yeah.
So
it helps too, because nothing particularly crazy happens in this movie. Nothing like supernatural.
No, but it's so effective.
It's so effective though. It's just like noises.
It's just so much nothing happening, but it's so
would
scary.
Would you guys open the bundle, or would you just nope the hell out of there? Because I don't think I would have ever opened that
nope
bundle.
To where? They tried.
Well, I know, but like I wouldn't have like played around and be like, oh, what's in this bundle? I would have.
I think the reason she opens it is because it's tied with Josh's shirt. That's the thing around
and
it.
The shirt's all bloody.
And the shirt's all bloody. So I think you want to know, is like Josh okay kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And it also tells you, like, should we be looking for Josh?
And also informs her later when they're hearing Josh yell in the woods that she knows, like, well, his tongue was in that bundle. And so I don't know that he's actually making words. It looked like tongue to me. Tongue and finger is what it looked like to me.
Oh. I don't know what it's supposed to be. I always thought it was part of an ear and obviously all the teeth. I think it is supposed to be tongue, though. That's in it. But yeah, either way, he's missing like all his teeth. So when he's yelling later, she should have an idea like, hey, this probably isn't Josh.
It's like sometimes it's just moans, but sometimes it is explicitly like, hey, help me. And it's like, oh, he can't make words. And then so she's like, we know it's not him, but she's still like, but what else do you do at that point? It's like, all right,
you're out the house.
Let's bring this to its conclusion. I guess
Mike ran in, right?
Well, and she never told Mike either.
No.
So
Nope. And again, there's like character choices happening, even though it's just good shit.
Now, do you think the Blair Witch would have left him alone if Josh hadn't knocked over one of the graves in the beginning?
So yeah, let's get into that, of the actual like nuts and bolts of this. I think that the first night before that happens, they're fine, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they make progress. They go to a new location the next day.
Yep. They find the graveyard.
Yeah, they
they
actually
went to
like
the
get
coffin.
to where they were aiming to go.
Yep.
And then after that happens is when stuff starts going off at night.
And then his stuff is the first stuff to be fucked with.
Yep.
Like
He gets the goo.
he gets the goo.
Yeah. What is this?
But yeah, no, I think that is part of it. Like if you're trying to logic it out, because
It's just fun.
it's
Yeah.
fun. And what I do with horror movies is all like, okay, how would I have avoided this?
Yes,
Like,
how would I-
well, I would have knocked over one of those
I
carrots.
definitely would have knocked over one of those carrots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I always assumed was he pissed her off kind of
I
thing.
think
Yep.
Heather said something like that. Like, did you seriously knock that over? Like,
Yeah,
She kisses the rock.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
like,
She tries to fix it. Yeah.
Mhm.
and then, but doesn't she take one of the symbols later too?
Does she?
She touches him.
She
a couple,
touches
I think. But I don't think she does anything with them. The ones that
Yeah.
are hanging.
Yeah.
Maybe the touch is bad too, but at a certain point, it's just like you're going through a cloud of them. You're going to touch one of them.
Yeah, and at that point, I think it's when they've already
It's over for them.
It's over for them.
Yeah. If they had ditched Josh, would they have been fine? Well, I guess not, because Josh gets taken and they still get,
Yeah.
They still can't get
somebody
out. After.
puts Mikey in the corner. So
Yeah, nobody was Mikey in the corner.
yeah, thank
That
you
part
for
of like the logic
Dirty
kind
Dancing
of
reference.
like bothered me a little bit, just because like, you know, the person's supposed to, it makes one of them look in the corner when it kills the other one. So like, how did she get Josh before? Or unless she just tortured him, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, there's a few things that like, because it's, you know,
It's all myth.
I think they're playing with urban legend and myth, because a lot of it doesn't, because they say like, oh, it's the guy, some old guy who
Right.
took children in pairs, but there were 7 children who died.
Yeah,
Right.
So how does he take
Yeah.
them in pairs?
Mm.
And then yeah, same thing with this. And it's like, well, he lives in a house, and it's like, oh, okay, so this is the old guy's house, and he puts the kids in the corner. It's like, but what? Okay, but is the Blair Witch also that guy? Like,
Right.
This was a guy that people knew that like came into town.
like
He
he's
got
real. Like
arrested.
real. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um,
So I like
then-
that there's that aspect of like conflating different
Mhm.
urban legends and
and
stuff.
then the coffin rock too is the same
and
thing. It's
Coffin
like
Rock too. Yeah.
it was what, like 3 dudes who are mangled and like strung together, which doesn't really align with the other things at all.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
total separate like tragedy basically, but it's all like, well, it happened in these woods. It's probably all related kind of thing.
That's pretty much what that fisherman's telling him is just like, don't go in there. It's just haunted.
just don't go
I
to the
can't,
woods.
like I can't give you specifics.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's bad. I
My-
saw some mist that went up a tree from the water. Did not investigate. I went home.
Yeah.
My note for that scene was, "Damn fool, kids will never learn."
Yeah, very good.
That's
So,
what
yeah.
he tells the next group of kids.
It's like Jaws. You don't want to get bit. Don't go in the water. Don't
Exactly,
go.
yeah.
Yeah.
So even though it does not even subvert, it just doesn't have a lot of different tropes and conventions of the horror genre. It does have an old guy who's like, don't go into them hills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing good up there. And then they go in anyway.
So I can't tell you if there's a ghost, but I can tell you about a bunch of people that died in there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like where he's coming from. It's like, look, man, it's creepy in there, and like people have been murdered. Like real people have been murdered there. So don't go.
Stay out of the woods.
Did it piss you guys off that Heather just keeps filming?
Yes.
Right?
Did until one of the characters was like, when he took the camera and was filming, and was like, "All right, I
Oh,
get this
God.
now." Like, you can
he's
just
just, like,
pretend
torturing
you're
her.
in. Well, not that part, but
Yeah.
before that,
Oh, because
where
of the
he's like,
unreality.
you could pretend like you're not, like this is all part of a movie. And like, as somebody watching a movie, I don't know, I could really just
Yeah.
appreciate.
At some point
the-
too, she says like, I don't have anything else.
I just don't have like the escapism.
And I was like-
I was like, I can,
get that.
I can click with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, like the movie has a lot more going on than I would have given it credit for.
I am glad that they added that part in because it made like way more sense when they said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you as
Yeah, it
a
has some
viewer are like,
stuff to
why are you
say.
still filming?
Right,
You guys are all
yes.
being murdered, and it's
Yes.
like, I don't even know that I'm not filming. I have the
Yeah.
camera in front
And
of my face.
Yeah.
I guess technically no one's been
There's-
murdered for a long time. Like, because
Yeah.
they're they're all like beyond the pissed off point before Josh even goes missing. Like they're all like totally fed up. And I guess at that point, nothing supernatural's happened. All that's happening is like they're hearing noises and the rocks are showing up. They think. And they're not even positive. Like, well, were these here? Did we build our tent around? Like, did we pitch our tent around these? And like they're finding the things in the woods, but they could just be lost in the woods and there's some weird shit in the woods. You know what I mean? They don't know for sure at this point.
Yeah, yeah. When they wake up and there's the 3 piles of rocks around, you're like, ooh, okay.
Yeah.
We're getting into some stuff now.
I did like the argument there where they're just like, were they already here? And I'm thinking like, of course that you did not notice 3 like
yeah, that's what one of them says.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way we would have coincidentally made camp in the middle of these 3 rocks.
Yeah.
Especially without noticing at least one of them.
Yeah.
Because somebody would be like, oh, no, I remember seeing one over there. I just didn't realize there were these other 2 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess I'd be like, no, they must have been there over that before. I was like, no, a witch probably showed up in the middle of the night.
It's probably a witch is going to murder us all in about 3 days.
Because it's the same thing as when Heather's just going, that's not the same. It's not the same log. And I love that they have it from her perspective with the digital video camera. And it's literally facing away from the stream and the log. And she's like, it's not the same one. She like won't even look at it. Yeah. And then she finally gets to it and collapses. She's going, it's the same log.
Yeah, I like that scene a lot.
It's a really smart movie.
Yep, I really like that. They wander around the woods for a lot of days. Like I hadn't seen this movie in a while, and I didn't remember being that many days. I thought it was like
what, 5 or 6?
It's a lot of days. Enough days where I'm like, man, these people are fucking hungry. I don't know what they've been drinking.
Yeah,
there's been the stream.
the gross stream.
It's obviously sleep deprived, and
yeah, that's the one thing I think of too. That they don't ever mention that they're sleep deprived. But I was like, they can't be sleeping, really, right?
No,
not after the first night, at least.
No.
And they're cold the whole time because they stopped making fires.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot they stopped making fires.
And it's not summer, obviously. It's fall, I think, right? It's supposed to be October, I want to say.
Yeah.
It's
damp and
it's great.
They're supposed to be in Maryland.
They're supposed to be in Maryland, but the woods look a lot like they look here too. So that probably would have been pretty scary if I had watched it back when I was a kid. I mean, it was scary just knowing about it culturally.
I used to camp a lot, I felt like. And every time I would camp after this movie, I was like terrified that something was going to start shaking my tent. You know what I mean?
I had never been afraid to be in the woods until after I had seen that movie. And I was like, oh, man.
Yeah, this same idea like Jaws and beaches. It's Blair Witches and woods.
Yeah.
and I mean, like, no offense to Maryland, but if there's going to be witches in the woods, it's here.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's true.
Fair.
Freetown State Forest, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I just think of the classic statistic that cows kill more people than Blair Witches every year. And
that's true.
I'm fine going into the woods.
That's fair, yeah.
But not into farms.
It just takes one, though.
Yeah, I stay away from
It's like your family won't be comforted. It was like, yeah, but he was the only one this year. Like, well, that doesn't bring him back.
Well, somebody else's family is like, at least it wasn't the fucking cows.
Have you heard that thing about horror movies where American horror movies happen in the woods and like outside because like outside of society? Because like that's what was scary in like colonial America, was being outside of society. And then European ones, everything happens in cities because like bad things happen in cities during like the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, that is something that was on the minds of the filmmakers. Or like with all of this, it's like, or this was an accident and they stumbled into it. I don't think that's true because of the kind of like smart stuff that's happening in the movie. But they were talking about like trying to tap into the traditional American fears of, it's wilderness, right? And so many times Heather says, if we go in one direction, we're going to run into something.
Yeah.
Because of deforestation.
You can't get lost in America.
Yeah, you cannot get lost in America.
She's kind of probably right in Maryland, right? There's like...
Yeah.
Realistically, if they walk the same direction for 8 days, they should have absolutely hit something.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe in like the real wilderness. And obviously Maryland has wilderness, but I mean like out west when it starts getting a lot more sparse. Maybe, but there still should have been a road one direction they were walking over 10 hours a day for 8 days.
Yeah. They did a lot of walking.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge amount of distance.
And no sleep. You must be wicked tired.
Even if you just said
they should have gotten
20 miles a day, that's 160 miles.
Yeah. I say like, I don't know where Burkittsville is on a map, but Maryland's kind of snaky. They would have crossed a state border at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
good. They should have walked east though, because eventually they're like, well, we'll be at the ocean eventually.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, honestly. I was like,
at least we'll be in the water.
East and west, I feel like are a little bit easier with the sun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than the compass.
Be sure.
Because but it didn't matter at that point. They were in whatever weird pocket dimension that the Blair Witch put them in.
Maybe we don't. I guess if you count the new one, then yes.
Right.
But at the time, like I feel like it was totally like reasonable that they're just lost. You know what I mean? Because like sure, you follow the compass, but as soon as you put it away for a little while, you don't know for sure. You're right.
It seems like Heather did some research, but it's not like she's a frontiersman. She's not like. They never make the point that like, oh yeah, her number one thing is she's always out in these woods. She's charting it. She just read a book. Yeah. Right?
Yep. She says she likes to hike, but I mean, I don't know anyone who likes to hike who's like, I have a map.
This was entirely not on trails.
Yeah.
Was this whole thing.
No, and I mean, I did some actual like map following courses for the military. Like they make you learn how to actually use a map. And like, it's not, even when you're instructed how to do it, it's not an easy thing to like, you still have to be able to find landmarks and figure out where the hell you are on this piece of paper.
Yeah.
I mean, she got them to their first destination, so she knows a little bit.
Well, yeah. And that's, I just love how that's leavened in there too, where you're like, it does kind of seem like they're lost, but she was right.
Mm-hmm.
At first she was right. Yeah. Twice she was right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, maybe she is right. And she's just being kind of shitty about it.
For me, it was always once they end up back at that log after they tried Charles Salt, it was like something supernatural.
It's always the log, yeah.
Well, just coming off of Stranger Things, I was like, oh, well, maybe the witch fucked with the compass. It's a little bit easier of a definition than the pocket dimension or whatever they tried to do in the new. Mm-hmm. But like, either way, it's supernatural, her fucking with them.
Yeah. Because that is a bit easier if they compass. And then the next day is when they're like, we'll go east all day or something, and they actually get someplace new because they get to the cabin that day.
Oh.
Well, I
always think that's like eventually they've gone far enough that okay, now you're in the cabin.
That's what I figured too.
They would have been there in whichever direction they went.
Yeah, even if they went south again,
right.
I think
they
would
just
have
brought
ended the
there.
cabinet. But
yes, it was time.
Yes, it was time.
Anything else in like the actual text of the movie that we want to talk about before like this stuff around it? Not that we haven't already talked about that too.
Yeah, the interviews and that they do in the beginning. What do you guys think about those?
Good stuff.
I really like when they're interviewing the people and like they go find the crazy lady and stuff.
Yeah, it's good man on the street thing, and those obviously had to be actors because the Blair Witch isn't like a real legend, so they had to give people lines and stuff. But it's still very believably what people would have said that are like locals that know about this from like childhood stories.
What the story is on it is that they were actors that were planted that they did not tell the other actors about. So Heather, Josh, and Mike were told, go around this place, ask these people these questions. And like, so they'd go to these places, ask people the questions. And then sometimes they'd ask people and the person would be like, you know what I mean? Was not an actor and was just like, fuck off. And then they asked someone that it would be one of these actors and they'd give them a whole spiel.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So when this movie comes out, there's a couple, this isn't the literal first found footage thing. There's Cannibal Holocaust from the 80s that is fairly similar. There's also The Last Broadcast, which is the year before in 98, which is also fairly similar. And if you like just tell by the title, The Last Broadcast, like, oh, okay, it has even just like some of the framing of it is going to be
probably filming before that was out, though, I'd assume.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess this is pretty.
But
quick.
So those are a couple of things that people are like, hey, this is like that. But I think it's what we've been talking about is that it is actually it's not just the gimmick. There's a lot more going on than just the gimmick, for us at least. So I think it's another situation of like if you. Just because you had like an idea for a social network doesn't mean you could have made Facebook.
Yes. I think they were real smart with their budget. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know.
Found footage was like an easy way to do that where it's like, okay, we don't need super expensive cameras or equipment or anything like that.
Mm.
Now, yeah, they're able to leverage everything that they have to it all adds to it. Even the guerrilla marketing that they did around it.
Yeah. Cause honestly, this movie, I'm like, this movie seems like it costs nothing to make this movie, right? Because there's no special effects or anything really.
It just seems like a movie anybody could make, which is what adds to the creepiness of it.
Yeah, that's and why it has such longevity and such a huge cultural shadow is that it is, on the one hand, there are so many literal like copycats because, oh yeah, I could do that. Me and my friends could do that this weekend. We could do this, and people go out and do it either on like literal home video scale or all the found footage stuff that comes after this owes a big debt to this, from Cloverfield to Paranormal Activity. And yeah, first Paranormal Activity under similar circumstances where the people who are in it are actually also the filmmakers of it. And that's also what, $50K that they make that for, or $15K, I think that they make that for.
One, yeah.
Yeah. That's just in a house.
It's just in one house. You know what I mean?
And that makes a ton of money. Paranormal Activity. The first one. Yeah.
I'm talking about Cloverfield still. It's like,
yeah, they make that all in one house.
It's
like 15 grand.
Big monster rampaging through New York. One house.
One house.
Like all the Marvel movies. One room.
One room. Sorry, the lighting never matches the background. We don't have to tool on Marvel again. It's not May anymore.
But yeah, I going back to this was nice too because it ages really well for such a cheap film because there's no special effects.
No.
Yeah.
No,
it's not like this looks cheesy now. It's like, oh no, it's all real, you know what I mean? It's a real tent.
Yep.
So if there are two images that stand out apart from the movie that people would look at and be like, that is the Blair Witch Project, it's Heather talking directly to camera where it's just the top half of their face and the ridge of her beanie, which is the poster image. Her apologizing to the families, and then obviously Mike in the corner. And it's like I don't think there's a time jump in between those. It's Heather doing that, then she hears something off in the woods, and they go walking towards Josh's voice and end up in the house.
Yes.
So that's all the same sequence. It jumps between the cameras, so there's cuts, but it's really cool. And that's one of the few times in the movie when they're actually in the house where one person with the camera shows the other person with the camera.
Yeah.
And they do that a few times, and it is like really jarring to see.
And they switch between them.
Yeah, they're switching between them a lot. And yeah, what do you guys think of the ending?
I love the ending, honestly. It's so good because like
you don't think it's an anticlimax that you never see a monster or anything?
Nope.
No.
I agree.
Nope. No. I don't.
It's the best part is that you never see the monster.
I think it's the best
it would have
part.
looked real dumb, I think.
It would have looked real dumb.
It would have been very dumb. It would have been very, very dumb.
And like I love it because like they never really mention the corner thing again. It's a one interview.
Yes.
Mention the corner thing, but you're thinking about it the whole time because you only have like very few pieces of the legend. You have like Rustin Parr putting the kids in the corner and killing them. The rock, the people getting mangled on the rock.
Yep.
And then that's it.
Yeah, if you're not paying attention during that opening sequence, you're missing a lot.
Yeah, and it's kind of just thrown off too because that's the, like you said, Rustin Parr. That's the old guy. That's not like part of a witch sighting.
Yeah, well, and then like the coffin rock, they said something about unintelligible language being scrawled on their face.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I think that was some of the symbols you saw. And then in the house, I was pretty sure you saw like hints of like runic.
Yeah, there's some kind of, I think it's like in the plot summaries you can see online, it's just like demonic symbols with no specificity.
Yes.
And handprints in blood, which it's dumb, but I didn't even make the mental connection that that's blood because it's just like, because you're seeing it in the black and white camera.
Yes.
Or the night vision in the DV camera.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, it's just like, I don't know, they put ink on their hands, smeared on the wall. It's like, oh no, it's probably red IRL.
Yes. But yeah, and you can tell it and it's red in a couple scenes because they switched the camera still for a bit.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of drips too.
But I love that whole ending sequence because them running around the house, you're like terrified the whole time.
Yeah.
Because what they're going to turn the corner and you're going to be face to face with some real shit.
Yes. So you're like terrified the whole time. You don't know what's going on. They're all like terrified. You know what I mean?
The worst part is when Mike runs into the basement and then from then on, you're with Heather basically.
Yes.
And the worst part is when she stops being able to hear Mike.
Yes. And you're like, oh my God. And then when she finally makes it down there and she turns and just sees him in the corner, like your heart like drops and she's just screaming. And then, I don't know, I think it's a great ending.
Yeah.
Yeah. camera drops.
Well, because like,
credits.
why is she screaming too? Like, what else is in the like? Is Josh in the room too?
I
Like,
think
she's
pushed to a point of terror, right?
Right.
Of
Yep.
just
Well,
like,
'cause, like,
total terror.
all as you see is Mike in the corner. So like, what is she screaming? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
She could know because she knows she was told. You know what I mean? The legend, so she could know like we're fucked. Like it's Rustin Parr or the witch or something. Or you're right, you don't know. Like maybe she sees the witch.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Maybe it's Mike, and then right off the frame is the witch like looking at her or something.
Yeah, I think one of the earlier interviews said like it was probably the one with Mary, where she says she could feel like a presence watching her or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sure there's some of that in there probably.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you don't see it. It's such an effective ending, and obviously on crowds at the time, people were just like leaving the theater. You can look at videos of people who are just leaving the theater, just completely out of breath, just like clutching their hearts, like, what the fuck?
Well, I mean,
They shouldn't be allowed to show that.
The way they present it too, like you find you don't see anything. The video camera lands on the floor. It's still recording, presumably. So it's understandable that like, oh, they went searching for these kids and they just found these cameras in the woods, and that was all they could.
Yeah. And that's the other part of it. Where do they find the cameras? Because they're both
assume that they had found the house. I would just assume they found
but the bodies weren't there.
Yeah, but the bodies disappeared from the rock, and like the kids' bodies were never
either
found.
they found the house or they just found the cameras. They got moved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's something supernatural is clearly happening. There's something
just
there.
like someone else was camping and the cameras were just there when they woke up outside their tent.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Or they're just in the woods.
It doesn't bother me, but it just
doesn't bother me at all.
It's funny to think about. Like,
I feel like the cabin
witch
is
mailing
in
them back.
like its own like
I feel like you
dimension
can't find
kind of
right.
thing,
That's
you
it
know?
for me too. It's like,
Yeah.
well, they can't get there.
Right.
You
It's
can't
not
get there
like
from
a
here.
real place to get to. Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
like you can't find the cabin unless she's bringing you to the cabin. Although at the same time, I also kind of assume like maybe is the cabin Rustin Parr's house?
That's what I thought it was.
Because if it is, it's like a place that people know of. You know what I mean?
And I figured they'd go and look like, oh, we're gonna check his house because they were filming.
Yeah, and they just find the cameras. You know what I mean? And it's not supernatural unless she wants it to be supernatural, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or unless she's there.
Well, like, and after they were dead, maybe the bodies stayed in the supernatural place and the camera popped into the real world or whatever.
Or she just brings the bodies somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're on the rock now. Or
well, they're probably under those graves she left for him. That's
I didn't think about it like that. That they were like headstones for them.
Those were their three graves. That's exactly because it was 7 for the kids that they killed.
Yes,
and then they wake up and there's 3 graves around them.
Yeah. I assume that was like
these are
Scrooge seeing his headstone and Ghost of Christmas Future.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. That's what I got from it too.
The scene with the all the witch things hanging in the trees, that was wicked creepy.
That scares the shit out of
So
me,
good.
honestly. I'm always worried at walking through the woods that I'm going to see something like that.
It's really funny.
I'm sure people do that too.
My cousin lives right next to the Freetown State Forest.
That's what I think of every time is Freetown State Forest.
It has the reputation for being haunted. And I saw symbols like that all the time when I was younger, but I never saw the movie. So I didn't. But people would just, it
was the trendy thing to do.
That forest has a history of being known as haunt. You know, like it's very.
Well, and that's another thing is like, so if you're listening, you're not from around here. We're in, Greater Fall River. There's this big state forest that has like the local legend of being haunted, but also there were literally murders that happened there, and like the police investigated, and there were bodies and stuff. Yeah. So it's kind of like this too, where it's like, yeah, it's really creepy, but also like people did literally die there.
Like just don't go there.
Same exact scenario.
I didn't sleep there.
I'm not saying it's going to be.
Day.
Not going to say it's being something paranormal is going to get you, but like a murderer might.
Right.
Like, but don't go camp there.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night, like.
Exactly. It's a really good movie. Real quick, let's give it some ratings on a scale of your choosing between 1 and 5 using half steps.
I'll give it 4.5 out of 5 murdered children.
That's how you get around the pair thing.
Mm-hmm.
Split 1 and 1/2.
Do we say it's out of 5? Should it be out of 7?
Should be out of 5.
Because I put them on Letterboxd, so it got to be out of 5.
Oh, okay.
You do out of 7, I'll try and convert, but it's got to be a half. I mean, it can be a whole number too.
Yeah, I'll go 4.5 extracted teeth out of 5.
I was gonna go with extracted teeth.
Mm-hmm.
I'd give it I'd give it 4 burial cards.
Okay.
I want to give it like 4.25, but we'll go 4.
It'll balance out with his 4.
Yeah.
4.5 was kind of where I was going, but I don't know. It's so tough. It's a really good movie.
Yeah. I'm gonna go a full 5 Mikeys in the corner.
Wow, nice. I was thinking something to do with corners too.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like I had to rate this movie high because it fucking lived with me for way too long. It terrified me as a child. And even I just went and rewatched after not watching it for years. And then after I had to go into my basement to do the laundry, I was like, man, I hope no one's in my corners in my basement. You know what I mean? Like, it sucks.
I actually woke up in the middle of the night and I was scared. Like, I'm never scared like that with horror movies. Yeah.
I'm impressed that it holds up. Like, it was scary. I mean, it wasn't super, but it's still scary. Like,
yeah, it's still scary.
So I
wouldn't go camping the next day.
I gotta give it a 5 out of 5 because one thing we talked about on the, if you recall the holy shit, I forgot. The Oh Captain, My Captain movie with Robin Williams.
Oh, Dead Poets.
One thing we talked about in the Dead Poet Society is that in that movie, he's teaching them poetry appreciation, not poetry criticism. And I feel like what we do here is movie appreciation, not movie criticism. So my 1 to 5 scale is based on how much resonance it has with me. And from that perspective, I do not think that no notes. I don't think you can improve upon how affecting this movie is.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's me. So 5 out of 5 for me.
In most movies, it's something where I'm like, this should have been a little different. But this movie doesn't have much where I'd be like, this could have been different.
I wouldn't change anything.
No.
I don't think it would.
Tight as a fucking drum, and it like not a wasted scene. All the stuff walking around in the daytime, really good.
Yeah,
it is really good.
I like a lot.
But yeah, all the stuff in the daytime, it's great because it does. It adds to that all the suspense. You don't know what's going on. Are they just lost? Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
When is this thing coming?
So it's a 5 for me, 4.5 for Greg, 4.5 for Ray, 4 for Robbie, which puts us at 4.5, I think, as an average.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's good. It's up there with Guardians.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
I think it's just as far as horror movies go, it's like, this is what you want.
This is like a platonic ideal.
But this is what I want, you know.
This is what I want to. Yeah. Then, like I said before, we were talking, maybe not even on the recording, we did the Shining episode, and that's the kind of horror that I like more. Even though I like Halloween, I like Nightmare on Elm Street, it's a different thing. This is the kind that sticks with me.
Yep. And they did it with like $50,000.
Yep.
Like
May potentially less.
They think that this is like a stupid movie. I feel like I've heard that, and I don't know. I can't see it. I'm just so scared every time I watch it.
Having had just watched Halloween and Nightmare, like this one was way scarier than
I think it was.
Yeah,
I think it was way scarier than either of those movies.
No doubt.
Significantly, especially when you factor in Freddy's noodle arms.
She sees him in the alley, and all of a sudden, just the entire width of the road.
Probably.
I can't get by.
Like, gonna have to go around, bitch. Like,
he only says bitch once, right?
I guess I didn't even catch it in that one.
I think he says it once.
Yeah.
But
he says it more in other movies, I think, supposedly.
Like in the first one,
Yeah. Yeah. He's just having a great time. He's not doing that many bits, but he's doing a couple.
He's doing bits, though. Like, he's a
like,
murderer that's
check
just
this shit
doing...
out.
I mean, like, if I was getting murdered, I'd be like, wow, you're going to do bits? Like, this is a big deal
really
for
disrespectful.
me.
This is my first murdering.
I'm being murdered, and you're doing a bit right now?
You're doing, like, pull my finger level, like, dad jokes. And they're also murdering me? This is so shitty.
Come on.
This is the worst dream I've ever had. Anyway.
So, wait, which movie would we rather be killed in?
Ooh.
Oh.
Out of the 3?
Probably Freddy.
Of the 3 we've done so far? Or just okay.
Maybe we should take a look back at all the horror movies.
Halloween, he does more choking than stabbing.
Mm-hmm.
Stabbing's a really shitty way to die. Stabbing's very painful, is my understanding.
Well, no, because the way he does it, he stabs you once and you just die.
That's true.
It's true.
You die the
He's
most
a good
there.
stabber.
I just don't want to be fucked with. And I feel like Michael Myers doesn't fuck with people.
That I honestly am immediately into Halloween because it's just like
I'm into it.
I'm all of a sudden I'm walking through.
I would let him kill me.
Yeah, I let him kill me. You know what?
We know what note means now.
You're walking through your house and all of a sudden you turn a corner and he's fucking right there. He fucking stabs you or chokes you to death. It's done.
He's not sending fucking goats after you. He's not growing his arms the size of the street.
Yeah, he's not terrorizing me in my dreams for a week.
He's not sleep depriving me for a week in the woods.
I was just thinking like blender bed seemed like a really quick way to go.
Blender bed's a quick way to go.
Yeah.
So this one's bad. Freddy's bad. Yeah, at least blender bed, you're done.
It was just
We're fine because he fucks with women more than dudes.
Yep, I don't sleep anymore.
Oh, good. So you're fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Every time I see a horror movie,
kids, he must be like, fuck.
damn it.
Once I see every horror movie I see, I do the thing you do. Like, well, where's my out? How would this not happen to me?
Out?
And I make sure I follow it for the rest of my life. And I was like, well, obviously I wouldn't sleep.
Just don't sleep.
Done.
I haven't slept since.
Mm-hmm.
I think the worst one is probably the movie we'll do next week, which is Get Out, where you just get, sunken placed.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen that.
Bad.
I need to watch that.
It's good.
You want to be on the next week's episode?
I guess I could be on the full
It's
month
really
this
good.
month.
Full month.
It's
Yeah.
I
really
think
good.
I've done that yet.
Yeah. You missed a couple of the Marvel ones, so it's good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Get Out's wonderful. I'm really excited
Great
to talk
movie.
about it.
I'm pretty excited about that.
It's really good. I wasn't scared of that one, but Randy told me he was very scared of it.
That makes sense.
Is Randy Black?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any final thoughts?
Good movie.
Good movie.
Good movie.
Good movie.
Kicks ass.
Kicks ass. Slaps.
Slaps.
You can find us on Instagram at LateToTheMovies_podcast, Gmail, LateToTheMovies@gmail.com. Both of those are the number 2, not 2 spelled out. TeePublic, just search for the Late to the Movies storefront. Anything else? Yeah, please rate and review us if you enjoyed this episode, and if you listened to all of it, hopefully you have it in your heart to give it 5 stars, maybe even leave a review. If you're on Apple Podcasts, even on Spotify now, you can give it 5 stars. Stitcher, Podbeans, etc. I got that one friend who listens on Podbean, and he's getting called out every time because it's a funny name. And that's about it for us this episode. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Ooh.
Good movie, though.
Oh, we should end it with a. Oh my God! What was that?
It is
What the hell is that?
It's still recording.
Oh. What the fuck was that? What the fuck was that?
The last episode of Late to the Movies.